Thank you very much to everyone to take time out of your busy life to do what our country needs. And it's an honor for me to be here and to be able to talk with you guys what my feelings are, because I think it's important for us to share our feelings so we can work together. And thank you, Erin, for inviting me. I had a very good time yesterday for almost 2 hours, and she made me very comfortable because I'm not a radio person. And just want to give you a little bit of background so you understand where I come from. I grew up in a small town of India. I went to medical school in India, met my wife there, got married, moved to United States after finishing my medical school, completed my residency and fellowship in New York in GI, along with my wife, who was a cancer specialist. And then after completing that, we moved to Reading, all the way from New York. But what's the difference between New York and Reading when we moved from India to US? And everyone said, why are you going to Reading? What is there? Why not New York? And we traveled all over the country looking for a place to live. It took us almost a year to decide what we want to do and where we want to live, but we wanted to go for a job or go for a living where we want to live. So we decided that this is the place we want to live for the rest of our lives. This is the place where we want to raise our family, our children, and come whatever, we are going to move there, job or no job. So we started our own practice. And again, everyone said, are you crazy? In this environment, you're starting your medical practice? Everybody's leaving it. Why don't you just take a job? I said, no. We wanted to be... Sorry. Is it okay if I move around? I just don't feel right, this thing between me and people. All right. So... we decided to move and practice the way we wanted without being told how to practice. And we always had this image of old country doctor who has direct relationship with the community and with the patients without the middleman in between. And that's what we wanted to do. And we have been accepted very well in this community, much better than what we ever dreamt of. So we're glad that we made the right decision. So with time, we have been involved more and more in community, and I'm sure you guys know Carl and Linda Bott, and they have become good friends, and lately I have been going on their shows every first Tuesday of the month. And initially, Carl approached me to talk about colon cancer. And I think after the first show, for the last 1.5 years, I have never talked about medicine at all. It's all been about something other than medicine, mostly about society and politics. Because I think it's important for us to be involved, for us average citizens to be involved. So that's where we come from. I've never been involved directly in politics. My only foray has been that I was elected the president of my students' union in medical school. And then for 2 years, I was elected the chief of staff at the hospital at Shasta Regional Medical Center, chief of medical staff, but never been involved in direct politics. So when Erin asked me to talk with you guys, my first consideration was, Erin, are you arranging a teleprompter for me? I need one. So, no teleprompter. All right. So, I'll just say what I feel like then. I know you guys are much more involved in doing something for the society than I have been. And I appreciate each and every one of you for that contribution. Where I come from is, I'm an average citizen. I just have a medical practice. I have my children. I want to give them a good life. That's the very reason I moved to this country. But over time, I have realized it's not just enough for us to earn our own living and do something for our children. It's also important for us to make sure that the community we live in is healthy. The country we live in is a good place to live. And I've said this several times before, and I would repeat this. Came to this country for a better life for my children, thinking America is a good place, it's a rich place, it's a prosperous place, I can prosper there. But over last, almost 18, 19 years or so, I've realized that's a secondary benefit of it. What I've realized is the value system we have here. What I have realized is I would rather be poor here than rich in many other parts of the world. And coming from India, just to give you a little background, it's an ancient country. People have lived there for 10,000 plus years. It has a rich history. It's been prosperous at times. It's been at the edge of technology and reason and philosophy and art at times. But for a long time, it has been in the dumps. So population is almost 1/5 of the population. Almost half of them live in abject poverty, which we defined yesterday was not getting enough food, 2,000 calories food in a day, $1 a day. Condition of women is extremely bad. Not all of them, but majority of them. They're suppressed. There's a dowry system. There's a caste system, which some of you may or may not be aware of that, in which certain people are forced to live a life of under the tyranny of other people. And despite having 1.2 billion people, it does not have too many accomplishments in last several centuries. So as a growing child, it always bothered me. I always questioned this, that why this country is not great, and why some other countries become prosperous and they become great. What's the difference between United States and India or Africa or Haiti or China? And that's a question which I have been searching for pretty much all my adult life. And some people say it's the money. When you're prosperous, you have a better life, everybody is decent, everybody is nice, because they are not hurting, they're not fighting for food. I disagree with that. If you see the time under Caesar and Romans and Pharaoh, they had a lot of money. They were very prosperous. They built huge monuments. But what was the life of common, average person there? Even in Rome, there were only few people who were citizens. Most of the people were not citizens. They were just serving them. So prosperity is not what makes the country great. In fact, prosperity comes for something else. And over a long period of time, I've been asking that question. And gradually, in this country, I learned about American history with my children, sometimes on my own, visited a lot of places, and what I realized was the most important thing is best encapsulated in the Declaration of our independence. And of that, the second line is the one which is the most important one. That's the most beautiful words ever spoken in English, which is, if you can recite with me, if you like to, that we believe, no, Let me just recite that from the paper here. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what has been the magnet. That's what has attracted the poor, the tired, the hungry, the persecuted from every corner of this world to this country. This is like a shining house on the hill, which holds this promise that you can be free here. You can do what you want. You can be what you want to be. No one has a divine right to rule you. And where does that stem from? That's another question I ask. So, growing up in India, I had no idea about American history. I learned a little bit. I knew who Thomas Jefferson was, but I didn't know how he thought. So, of course, Thomas Jefferson was a major person behind this declaration, right? And interestingly, we find we're talking about state of Jefferson. So, in recent years, I searched it more in last few years. What made Jefferson think the way he thought? So some of you may be aware of this book, Light and Liberty. It's on Thomas Jefferson's ideas on life and liberty, which is a very, very profound book. But if you want to really understand that even deeper, this is where I found the answer. The Jefferson Bible. Some of you may be aware of this. And please feel free to just say anything you want in the middle of the conversation, because I don't want to make a speech here. I want to have a conversation with you guys. So please feel free to just say whatever you feel like. So, and is everyone aware of this, the Jefferson Bible? So what Thomas Jefferson did was, he had this idea that he liked to read every day before going to bed something about morality. And with time, he came up with this idea of summarizing and condensing the life and teachings of Jesus. So he took several versions of Bible available at that time and cut the important things which he thought were the central things Jesus said. Not the peripheral things so much, not everything. And then he actually physically cut those papers and pasted them from different versions and created an abridged version for himself. And that's what is the longer title is The Life and Morals of Jesus of Nazareth, extracted textually from the Gospels in Greek, Latin, French, and English. So, these truths which we hold so dear and self-evident, what are these truths? These truths are universal. They are eternal. Thomas Jefferson didn't come up with that. He didn't invent it. They're eternal. He just wrote it in one line in a beautiful manner which touches our heart. In a modern context, in a our language, which we can understand today. But these truths have been there forever. These are simple truths for us to see if we choose to. And if we choose to ignore it, then no one can save us. So these are the truths which were spoken by Jesus also. And probably Jesus was the person who spoke these truths in the simplest forms, in the simplest words. And not only that, he lived that. So, there is a spiritual side to those words, and I'm not a preacher. I'm not an expert on the spirituality. But there is a definite social side to it, which is that we are all children of one God. Not multiple gods, not false gods, one invisible God. And we are all children of that God. We are all equal. And we are all free. Because king is not higher than me. Nor is any priest. So that king has no right to rule over me. No divine right. And you have to understand, America is an exception. Throughout the history, people have claimed that I have the divine right to rule because of my birth in the right bloodline, or because of my coronation by a priest, or because of some god. In Pharaoh's time, king was God. And it continues to be so in some places still. It continues to be so in my own country in some ways, where I came from. And when you have that divine right of a man to rule other man, what will follow from that? Only tyranny. This is a new start in human history. Before that, it was not possible. But founding fathers decided that no man has a right to rule us. We rule ourselves. We come together, make our own government, and then we decide to rule ourselves by predefined rules. And when we do that, that government only gets those specific powers which we grant the government, which we grant the ruler. So, that is exactly the opposite of what people believed before that. King had all the rights over your life, except what he lets you do, except for everything is his, except for what he lets you keep. Your land is not yours. Your earning is not yours. Heck, your family and your children are not yours. It's a king who, in his generosity, benevolent dictator, is letting you keep. He's letting you keep your land. He's letting you keep your money, part of it, because that all belongs to him. And when Jesus said, do unto God, give unto God what is God's, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but the exact words, but and give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and give unto God what's God's. What that means is, it's not Caesar's. He doesn't have right on us. And if we forget that, we slip back into that tyranny. And we were talking yesterday, this is an eternal fight between this thought that a king has a divine right to rule us, versus we can rule ourselves. That fight goes forever, and that fight is going on today also. What we are seeing today is more and more encroachment on our individual rights. And what we are seeing that is happening in the name of protecting us, in the name of helping us, and in the name of telling us that we are different people, we are different groups, and one group is going to take over other people's rights, so we must protect you from those groups. That divisive politics, that identity politics, that politics of saying that I'll help you, I'll get you everything. When you take food from a man's hand, you must follow the man. And that's what they want to do. So, I'm sure you guys are all aware about the Healthcare Act changes. That is just one example of that. And I think we need to take care of the people who are in an unfortunate position that they cannot take care of themselves. And I have said this often, whether they are pregnant women, whether they are children, whether they are elderly, whether they are disabled people, we have this moral responsibility to help them. And yes, if we want to provide those services through a government arrangement, we can do that as long as it's done at a local level. Because at a local level, city, county, it's closer to our home. We can influence it. City manager, county supervisors, they're going to be much more likely, much more inclined to hear our views and change, because we can approach them, we can access them. And they have to live in the same community. But not the president, not any senators, right? Not even governor. They don't know what's going on in Reading, do they? So what do? They, number one, don't know what the problem is. Number two, they are inefficient. But number three, even more importantly, they become corrupt. When they have to provide all these services, they had to have some resources. And those resources come from where? From us. Right? Now, just imagine this. We had no income tax before what, 1913? Right? Country run well before that. So now income tax, okay. What's the concept of income tax? That it's all government's money. It's all government's money. They're letting you keep some of it in their generous approach to you, you know. They're benevolent people who are just taking a small amount of your money. All right, fine. As a government of people, we decided, Congress passed it, Senate passed it, courts upheld it. We decided that we're going to tax people's income. Fine. We lost our freedom there. Mind you, we lost our freedom there because that's the fruit of our hard-earned labor, which they are taking away from us without our consent. However, in a way, we agreed to consent to it in a democratic politics. Whether it's constitutional or not, that's a question, but I think it's against the principle of Declaration of Independence. Be what it is, we have that. But they go a step further. They tax you unequally. Not only they tax you unequally in terms of actual money number, but they also tax you unequally in percentage basis. And that has become a truth now, a fact now. If someone speaks against it, he's considered cruel. He's considered greedy. Right? And my question is, this Declaration of Independence, let's all come back to that. Lincoln said this. Everything, and I'm paraphrasing it, everything else must be judged on the basis of this Declaration of Independence. He considered that as a fountainhead of our Constitution and our legislation and our society. And that Declaration of Independence says two things, primarily. Two things. Universal freedom and universal equality of rights, of natural rights. Not of the outcome, not of the money. It's very specific. Universal freedom of all the man and universal equality of natural rights, which are unalienable. So we lost the freedom when the government starts taxing our hard-earned labor, and then we lose our equality because the government can pick and choose who to tax more and who to tax less. My feeling is, if you're going to tax them, apply it uniformly. Equal percentage from everyone. Guy who makes $1, if you tax 10%, he'll pay 10 cents. One who makes $1 billion, let him pay 100 million. But at least be consistent. And when we let that happen, that equality is gone, then they go a step further and make us fight with each other in the name of 1% versus 99%. And that's how they win elections. The other thing they do is, they also say that, look at you white folks, and it's a Martin Luther King Day. You're all racists. You Tea Party people, you're racist. Right? Now, do we have racism in our heart? I think all of us have racism in our heart to some degree. We all are suspicious of someone who doesn't look like us. Whites are suspicious of blacks. Let's be frank, blacks are suspicious of whites. Asians are suspicious of whites and blacks both. Right? Asians are suspicious of their own Asians. In my country, people belonging to different castes are suspicious of everyone, each other. So there is some racism in our heart. There is some evil in our heart. We cannot deny that. And that's what this book is about. There is evil. We cannot deny that. But we strive to be good despite of that. And I'm not a preacher, I'm not a good person, I'm a sinner. However, we strive to do the right things. What's more important to realize is institutions. Do we have an institutionalized racism today or not? Yes, we did have one in past. But what happened? We were forced to confront ourselves. The country was forced to confront ourselves because they believed in this universal freedom and universal equality and children of one God. And then they said, yeah, we still have slavery. Something is wrong here. Who died in Civil War? 500,000 plus people. Most of them were white folks. They fought with each other to do what? Abolish slavery. Martin Luther King Day was today. There were 12% or so blacks in 1960s, right? Something like that. Could they abolish segregation purely on their own? No. And again, I'll draw a comparison here. In India, we have a caste system with the untouchables, 20% or so. They're still suffering. Why? Because the rest of the people, most of them, would never stand with these people who are suffering. Here, who stood up with Martin Luther King? Who marched with them? Not just blacks. but the whites do. Why? Because same principle was in the back of their mind, that we're all children of one God. We're all created equal. So institutionalized racism no longer exists in this country. In fact, institutions do not tolerate racism here, even if some individual does. So when they call you racist, to ask them that question, what do you mean by that? Show me the type of institutional racism which existed in this country in past or in other parts of the world. And remember, at that time, there were so many other countries who had the same things. Or the institutional racism which still exists in the other part of the world today. And don't let that get to you, because that is just their way to get under your skin. That's just a way for them to make you react. Yes, we need to try harder, we need to strive harder so that our words are more carefully chosen. Because words are the window to our soul. And sometimes we are careless about it. Sometimes we don't realize that somebody else who's listening to us, hearing us, may interpret our words differently, even if we don't mean that way. Happens all the time. Between a wife and a husband, children and parents, we say something, they hear something else. Right? So we need to be careful. And it's even more important for us if we want to be doing something better in the society, we have activism inside us, we want to do something for the country, then it's even more important for us to choose our words more carefully. And also look inside and make sure that words actually reflect our inner feelings. But that is just like a voodoo doll they have. Calling Tea Party racist is like having a voodoo doll. They pin that on voodoo doll so that they can destroy you. Okay? Because the real purpose is to silence the voice of average citizen. What are you guys? I don't see any congressman or senator here, or if there is one. You're all average citizens, just like I am, right? Maybe you guys are doing better than I am, or more powerful than I am, but Tea Party is a desire of an average citizen to live and continue to live like a free man or a free woman, and nurture this dream which we always had, eternal dream which we had, that we can live free and as equal human being with equal rights. And we can keep it free, keep this land free, a land of free men, for our future generation. That's a desire of every citizen. It grew out of nothing, right? It's a grassroots thing. And that's what they're scared of. That's what they're scared of most. When an average person can rise up and say, I'm free. You don't have any right to rule over me. Now, what did they do with the Affordable Health Care Act? This is the first time they have gone beyond just taxing your income, beyond just taking away fruits of your labor or taking away your property. What is the central thing of Affordable Health Care Act? How? Mandate. Now, Roberts called it a tax, which the government, which even Congress didn't intend to call, but it's a mandate that you must buy an insurance. Now, government makes us buy auto insurance. What's the difference here? You have a choice. You don't have to drive. Now, do we have a choice of not buying a health insurance? Yes.
Yes, I actually have a code section that is inside the healthcare, and I'm going to pull it up here in a second, that says that you can opt out and there's no penalty.
But, okay. What you're saying is you can opt out and there is no penalty. But try doing that and succeed in court. I guarantee you'll be penalized. Whether it's right or wrong, you will be penalized for that. So the result is you have to either buy insurance or pay a penalty. Do you have a choice there not to do that? Yes, you do have a choice. You have a choice of not living. But as long as you're living, as long as you're breathing, you must pay the Caesar, the tax for breathing, tax for living. That's a great choice. You want to breathe? Sure, go ahead. Pay me the tax. Pay me the money. Buy this insurance. So, you don't want to breathe? Fine, be dead. So I have a fundamental problem with that. And we can talk about politics and money and economy and healthcare in detail, and that subject is never ending. But this is the first time in this country we have agreed that government has the right to force us or tax us, force us to buy something or tax us just for the mere act of breathing or living. Well, I hear you. I hear you complete. I hear you loud and clear. As individual, we did not agree. Government is forcing us to agree. Right? So, what are we going to do about it? Of course. And win. We got to win. And thereafter of that, how are you going to win? You have to speak your mind. You have to communicate with other people. But you have to do a little bit more than that. And that's what I want you to keep in mind. And we were having this conversation here. Other side is not stupid, right? Evil is not stupid. Devil is not stupid. Smart. They know what you want. They know you're right. They're not going to accept it. What are they going to do? They know that what you speak is truth. And if people hear it unfiltered, they'll believe you also. Because most people are decent people. Right? Almost all the people are decent people except for certain very few sociopaths. So they'll believe you. What are they going to do? They're going to put a filter. They're going to put a light to color your words, to color your actions. So they're seen as bad actions and bad words. How are they going to do it? They're going to give you a bad name first. They're going to tell the people that these people are bad people. They're cruel. They're greedy. They're racists. They're stupid. They're superstitious. They're conspiracy theorists. They're going to say all those things. They are against the immigrants. They're against the poor. They're against the women. That's what they're going to do. Right? Are they doing that? How are we going to fight that? The good ideas are good. Right? You know, Jesus spoke the truth. What happened to him? So it's not enough. It's not enough. Even Jesus took 12 apostles. He took those people, made them the fishermen of men. So we need people to spread that message, to spread that message. And that message is universal. Trust me. People will accept it. It doesn't matter which race, which color, which ethnicity, which country. Of course, Jesus never lived in America, right? So that message resonated in where? Middle East. That message resonated in Europe. And not just there, everywhere else. It went to America, it went to Asia. So it will resonate with everyone. Our Declaration of Independence is based on the same thing also. It will resonate with everyone. We need to carry that message to everyone. When we say state of Jefferson, yes, I want to live in state of Jefferson of Reading, but I want to live in a state of Jefferson of the entire country. And we have to do that. And again, I come back to this this popular theme of mine. We live in California. Don't give up on California. Because if you give up on California, you give up on the country. Who has the most votes? Who has the most electoral votes? Who has the most congressional seats? If we give up on California, then we are effectively giving up on the country. We need to figure out a way to change California. How will you change California? Not just Reading. Reading may be the spark. It may carry the light. But it needs to go to Southern California. It needs to go to San Francisco. It needs to go to Oakland. It needs to go to Alameda County. It needs to carry that message there. Because this is the universal message. What has Democratic Party or Obama done for blacks? Nothing. Are they stupid they won't understand it? No, they will. What we need to be careful about is, and this again we had this conversation offline yesterday, that they're going to throw something at you so that it sticks at you. Racism, conspiracy theory, whatever. They're going to come with the divisive messages, divisive politics. And I have this article I wrote for New Reading Record Searchlight. It may go a little bit more into details of that. But they're going to do that. And they're going to make it stick on you to make you react. What we do is, we stay out of the way. Let it boomerang on them. And then they will have no answer. So, let's talk about immigration in that, which I mentioned yesterday was that immigration has 3 problems. 1, laws are not executed. You don't like it, change them. 2, separate identity is promoted amongst immigrants, and it's promoted that they should maintain a separate identity, a unique identity, and they should be proud of it, or a language. And I'm an immigrant. I celebrate my home country's celebrations, but there's a difference between being proud of your separate identity versus celebrating your identity. Celebrate all and everything. I'm happy to do that. My identity, your identity, everybody's identity. No problem. But taking collective pride in a separate identity is a risky slope. They want us to go down that road. So that's a problem with immigration. The third problem with immigration is when we have a welfare state which promises everything under the moon. If you don't have that, A lot of people are going to say that, I don't want to be there. I want to get free healthcare or free money or free food stamps or anything. Why would I want to be there? I have to pay taxes like everyone else. So what we need is those three things more critically than getting into this debate with these people who want to paint you as anti-immigrants. And this is a long shot. I know Aaron laughed at me when I offered that solution. My solution to problem of cross-border infiltration across Mexico-US border is, let's take over Mexico. And not just Mexico, the entire Central America, all the way to Panama Canal. Then we have very little border to save.
It's our money running it anyway.
I'm sorry?
It's our money that runs most of it anyway.
Plus, we'll get rid of drug problem. Plus, we'll get rid of corruption. Maybe not all of it. We still have corruption in Washington, D.C. But at least not at a local level. Not so much, right? Again, this is a fight of evil and good over. It's never perfect. But let's make Mexico another state of United States, 51st states. And you know what? What did Jefferson do? Louisiana Purchase. Let's do that. Problem solved. Now I know it's a long shot, but maybe that's my dream. Okay. So, what I'm saying is, these people are going to pull you into mudslinging. And they're going to hope that something sticks. So they can give you a bad name and distract you from the real purpose. But if we stay focused on the message, remember what we are here for and what brought us here. The dream, American dream, Statue of Liberty says, give me your tired and hungry and poor. Not just your rich. Not just your smartest people, because smartest people are generally the crooks. Right? Most of the smart people, what do? They exploit the system for their own benefit. What did Jesus? Jesus didn't want rich or smart people. What did he want? He said, what you do to the least of my brothers and sisters, you do it for me. So, those tired and poor and hungry, that's how most of us came here from in the first place. I mean, I came very late. You guys come much before than me. Your forefathers came much before than me. But most of you guys, I believe, didn't belong, correct me if I'm wrong, no offense here, didn't belong to any monarchy. Did you guys? They were average citizens. And they made a good life for themselves. They got this opportunity, a freedom, an opportunity to make good life for themselves. They make a good life for themselves and their children. We are benefiting from it. We are inheriting that. But we must not be complacent. This is not ours. This is not our this country is not our property. This culture, these values, we are custodians of it. It's our responsibility to save it, protect it, nurture it, improve upon it, and hand it over to our children and our future generations. Because that's what counts in life. That's what we all want to do. And we must do whatever is required for that. An ultimate guarantee of that, I would just add one more line here. I know the time is short, but I would like to add one more line to that, which is ultimate guarantee of that is not the government. It's an individual. It's me. It's you. It's you. It's you. How you defend your liberty. And the very thing which you require to defend your liberty is you should be willing to do whatever it takes to defend your liberty. We don't need to encroach on another person's liberty. We don't need to encroach on another person's property. We don't want to do that. But we must defend our own. And for that, the First Amendment and Second Amendment are extremely important. The Bill of Rights, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion. But who guarantees that? First Amendment. It's the Second Amendment which guarantees that. You give that up, you're toast. So, thank you very much. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. If I can. Oh, okay. Okay. So there's an old statement that you don't need to give a man a fish. Just teach him how to fish. Right? I would modify that. You don't need to teach me how to fish. You don't need to give me fish. You don't need to teach me how to fish. You don't even need to permit to fish. You don't need to allow me to fish. I will fish. I'll figure out on my own. Only thing is I'm going to make sure is I'm not going to let you take my fish. And only I can say that. No one else is going to say that. So we don't need to teach anyone. We don't need to allow anyone to fish. But we must not take other person's fish. Because do unto others what you would like for yourself. So if we don't want to give away our fish, we don't want to take other person's fish. And that's what this government is for. To make sure that no other person takes away your fish and you don't take away other person's fish. That's all. That's the sole purpose. That you don't do that by fraud or by violence. You may do that by a fair trade, but not by fraud or violence. And government doesn't care if we don't care. And if we cannot have the power to do that, then they will take away our fish. And in today's world, power lies in bearing arms, as it always did. When the arms were stones, people used stones to protect their fish. When the arms became sticks or bow and arrow or a sword, they needed that. Today, if we have guns, we need guns. That's a great equalizer. It's a great equalizer for me versus a 7 foot or 6.5 foot wrestler. It's a great equalizer between somebody who may be disabled versus somebody who may be much more stronger than him or in a much better position. So we must remember that we cannot allow anyone to take our fish. Now, reality is we do, but that's what we need to strive for. We are allowing government to take our fish for now, but we must not forget our goal. We must not forget the principle that no man has the right to rule us without our consent. No man has the divine right. Not on my freedom, not on my property, not on my fruits of my labor. And if we go with that, that's a gospel for me. And we need to carry that everywhere. We need to be careful with our words, but we need to carry that everywhere. And I promise you, you will succeed if you do that. Just focus on that message, stay with that, you will succeed. Thank you.